Here for the latest installment of the MCU Rewatch Review series, myself, Graham Giason Matthews, and the doctor, Chris Mueller, from the Twitter machine at BR_Doctor. Chris, welcome back today as we talk about Phase 2 of the MCU.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. There's not a ton of movies to talk about here. It's like sequel city here between. So this is the lineup for what we're talking about. We got Iron Man 3, Thor 2, The Dark World, Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man, which was... So we only have two original movies in Guardians and Ant-Man. We have 4 sequels between Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and Avengers. And as I was saying to you before we got on the phone here, it's just that with these movies, they're all good movies, but I feel like if you're going to binge watch... I don't know why you would binge watch just one phase and not the entire thing. That's what we're doing here with this podcast. But it feels like Phase 2 is kind of forgotten about. It's really the transitional phase before we get into the bigger and better movies in Phase 3, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of trilogies of like 3 movies have that problem where the first movie is awesome because you're introduced to all these characters, and then the second movie is almost there solely to set up the third movie.
Mm-hmm.
So like you look at The Matrix, for example, where you go from one of the best action sci-fi movies of all time in the first one to the second movie, which is very widely regarded as being much, much worse.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people hate the third movie too, but at least the third movie gives you an ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like with the phases of Marvel, they sort of almost follow that too. It's like the first phase is look at all these shiny new characters, and then the second phase is, all right, we got to take these characters and move them forward, maybe give you a couple new ones, and then the third phase is we're going to pay off all these things that we've been setting up for the past several years.
Yeah, exactly. And it serves a purpose in that respect. It's far from pointless. I don't want to say, oh, don't watch these movies.
I mean, it did give us Guardians, and it gave us The Winter Soldier, which is one of the best MCU movies.
Exactly, yeah. 2014 was a golden year for Marvel between Winter Soldier and Guardians. And that year alone, we got 2 of the best MCU movies, period, which... at the very end of this thing, I want to do a ranking. I'll have you do a ranking for all the best Marvel movies, best to worst, then I'll do my own, and we'll kind of put one together ourselves. And I'm anxious to see where we both rank those 2. And I feel like if they're anything less than the top 10, then we're not ranking these movies properly because they're amazing. But yeah, Phase 2, we start off with Iron Man 3. We then get into Thor 2, Captain America. And again, we don't really get into the newer characters until we get to Guardians in 2014. Do you think with the first 3, Iron Man, Dark World, Winter Soldier is actually a great movie, do you think it was like, okay, we're kind of getting in too much into the sequels and the same characters? Did you want to see new ones at that point? Or we didn't really mind seeing 2 and 3 of these various already established franchises with Thor and Thor and Iron Man specifically?
I mean, I understand the need to keep making the same characters relevant. I just felt like in this one, maybe they could have introduced a couple more characters along the way. Like Age of Ultron gave us Vision and Wanda, of course. Mm-hmm. And Thor: The Dark World didn't really give us anything new that stuck around anyway.
Yeah.
Neither did Iron Man. Winter Soldier, I mean, it gave us the new version of Bucky, but he was in the first movie, so it's not like he was a new character. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's really like those first 3 movies are sort of like, yeah, these are the big 3 guys, and then the next 3 are all the introductory, these are the new people kind of thing. And I don't know, I mean, Guardians is a whole group of new people, so I guess that sort of makes up for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Do you think there's something to be said for Phase 2 and how, maybe not with the first few movies, with what you just said, but with Guardians, with Ant-Man, the risks that were made with the MCU? Because again, as we've talked about with the Ant-Man podcast and the Guardians one, it felt like those movies could have been the first ones to bomb. Like, oh, this is going to be terrible. Like, it's not Iron Man, it's not, Captain America, whatever. They're as not well-known characters as those other already established superheroes. And these movies may not be too good, but Guardians specifically was one of the highest-grossing movies. I think the highest-grossing movie of 2014, or at least one of them. I don't remember exactly. Winter Soldier was up there too, obviously. But do you think there's something to be said for the risks that they took with Phase 2 and how they paid off?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Guardians was a huge risk because, granted, you have James Gunn. He's a great filmmaker, so you're going to get something enjoyable out of him. But it's these characters that 99% of the general public has never heard of, and even most comic book fans have never read their books. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy was a very strange series for Marvel that was never as popular as something like Spider-Man or the X-Men. And even the cartoons, like, barely ever acknowledge these characters from what I remember. It wasn't until after this movie came out that a Guardians cartoon got made, to my knowledge. So,
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, that was a big risk. Ant-Man was probably less of a risk because you had, I mean, Paul Rudd is a like a national treasure. Everybody loves that guy.
Yeah.
So, like, putting him in something and marketing it as a comedy, it's like, okay, people are going to go see it if they like Paul Rudd. But yeah, Guardians was a huge risk, and it paid off beautifully because it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Had they put it in the hands of a different cast and a different director, it could have been a mess.
Yeah, no, definitely. With Guardians, it just paid off beautifully. Ant-Man, not as good, but still a very good movie in its own right. Again, very random, but with Guardians, and you mentioned the animated series that came out afterward, is Star-Lord voiced by Eric from Boy Meets World? Or is that another character I'm thinking of?
Well, I know he did Deadpool's voice for like a video game and maybe some cartoons. I have no idea if he did Star-Lord's.
I was looking at his filmography or whatever, and I thought he had done Star-Lord or another MCU character.
He does a lot of voiceover stuff. Will Friedle?
Yes, yeah, Will Friedle.
Yeah, he does a lot of voiceover work, so it wouldn't shock me at all. He has that sarcastic quality to him. That's why he was good as Deadpool.
Yeah, no, I have to see him as Deadpool. I knew that he did that, but I didn't see... It was a video game, you said, right?
Well, that was one thing I think. He might not have been in the main Deadpool game. He might have been in, like, Deadpool was in somebody else's game. But
okay.
He did the Deadpool character in one of the Spider-Man cartoons.
No, interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's not an old Spider-Man. It's, like, relatively... Like, since the MCU started, there was a Spider-Man cartoon where, like, the first season almost involves him, like, training with S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they rewrite Deadpool where he's a former S.H.I.E.L.D. trainee. He's not all, like, crazy and murderous because it's a kid's cartoon.
Yeah.
But he's still the sarcastic, kind of crazy character you'd expect him to be. So, yeah, Will Friedle did a good job with that.
I have to check that out because I loved him on Boy Meets World, so many years ago. I know he had done a lot of superhero stuff or a lot of, like, voiceovers and whatever, so I'd have to check that out. But by this point in the MCU, they're having multiple movies released a year. So Iron Man 3 and Dark World both came out in 2013. Captain America Winter Soldier and Guardians both came out in 2014. And Avengers and Ant-Man both came out in 2015. So by this point, I think I asked you this with the Phase 1 recap. But were you feeling exhausted at all with all the Marvel movies being released a year? Because we're going to get to a point at some point, I think in not 2016, 2017, where there were three. I think in 2017 it was Guardians 2, it was Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, and what was the last one? Ragnarok. They had three movies come out in the same year, a lot like, I think last year we had three as well in 2019. Were you experiencing that, fatigue at all from the MCU, or was it just, good movie, so I don't really mind?
I didn't really mind. I know some people may have started feeling that way, especially because this was at a time where they were still releasing a lot of other superhero movies. Like, there was X-Men movies that came out. There was probably a couple of DC movies. So, yeah, there was a lot of superhero stuff really exploding at the time. Mm-hmm. So I could get why some people might be a little burnt out, especially with, like... Iron Man 3 was really the fourth Iron Man movie because the first Avengers is very much...
It's pretty much his movie, yeah.
It's an ensemble, but yeah, Iron Man's like the main guy.
Yeah.
So that I could see maybe people getting a little tired of. Dark World was just kind of dreary and depressing. Yeah. But I think Winter Soldier being so vastly different from the first Captain America kind of brought people back, and they're like, oh, this can be more than just big action scenes. There can actually be espionage in our spy movie, so that's cool. And then Guardians is like, let's just combine all the stuff from Star Wars and Star Trek and all the other sci-fi stuff and add the Marvel name to it, and then that worked out well. I think 2014 was probably like if anyone was getting fatigued, those two movies brought them back.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of my next question. Do you feel like with those movies and as well as Ant-Man paying off as well as it did the following year, were you at a point now, I mean, you probably were already at this point, but with a majority of the MCU viewing audience, where you had faith in Marvel, it's like, okay, regardless of what they do, regardless of what character they make a movie on next, I know it's going to be at least good, if not very good, if not awesome. Because a lot of these movies, again, Dark World's probably one of the weaker ones in the entire MCU, but it's not downright deplorable. It's not great, but it's also not too terrible either. Were you at a point, does Phase 2 kind of cement that for you? It's like, okay, any movie they make here from this point forward, I know is going to at least be good. You have that faith in Marvel?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be people who will have bad things to say about every one of the Marvel movies, like, oh, it didn't do this well enough, it didn't do that well enough, but they're popcorn movies. You're never going to get the most violence. You're never going to get the most tear-jerking moments. You're never going to get the funniest jokes, but you're going to get a good mix of good quality moments that fall into those three categories across all of them. So, if you want to be entertained for 2 to 2.5 hours, really any Marvel movie will accomplish that goal, unless you very much hate one of the people in it.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully,
like, if you hate Paul Rudd with a passion, don't watch Ant-Man.
I was going to say, just don't watch it.
Because it's not going to change your mind on him. He's the same Paul Rudd he always is.
Exactly. He's no different than always, yeah. Which is why it's such a good movie. But if you hate Paul Rudd, probably not in your best interest to watch the movie.
What's weird is Chris Evans, it's the exact opposite. Like, I did not like Chris Evans as an actor. No, you're thinking of Chris Pratt.
Oh, Chris Evans. I'm an idiot. Yeah, Chris Evans.
I did not care for most of the stuff that Chris Evans did pre-Captain America. Yeah. He did some good things, but it's felt like every movie, it's, hey, you're the sarcastic guy. Mm-hmm. So, like, Fantastic Four, you're the sarcastic guy who's also a ladies' man. Like, not another teen movie. You're the sarcastic jackass jock. Like, he's good at doing that. And I feel like maturing more as an actor through playing a completely different type of character is why he goes back to that type of character in Knives Out, and it's much more funny than it would have been 10 years ago, because he's a better actor now.
Oh, different.
Well, because he's a better actor now. Like, now he can actually channel, like, deeper emotions because he's been given those opportunities. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I don't know if you saw him in Snowpiercer. Did you see that?
So I didn't see the movie. I know what you're talking about. I don't watch the whole movie. I just saw some parts of it in a movie theater. It was fucking loud. It was really loud when, like, the train, like, goes off the road. That might have just been where I saw it, just because it was a really small theater. But no, I didn't see the whole movie, to answer your question.
That movie is as dark and dramatic as you get. Like, okay. there is nothing funny in that movie.
Yeah.
But it's probably one of the best movies he's been in terms of his acting. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he could have made that movie if he had just been making the sarcastic stuff this whole time. Like, Captain America really gave him a chance to prove that he can be more than just, like, the good-looking guy with a funny one-liner.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to ask you this. So I saw someone watching a movie with him and Anthony Mackie in it that I think came out in 2015. I don't know if we talked about this movie before, but it came out a year after Winter Soldier. Do you know what movie I'm talking about? And again, he played that same dick character that you're referring to. It came out in 2015. I don't know the name of the movie. I mean, if I look it up right now, I'll know, but I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
What?
I guess it was like a love movie or something, or like a romantic comedy or something. Let me look it up real quick.
Chris Evans wasn't in Pain and Gain with him, was he?
With Rock?
Because Anthony Mackie's in that too.
Is he really? I didn't see that movie. I didn't know that. I didn't see the movie, but I know.
It's Mark Wahlberg. It's like he's one of the three guys. It's him, Mark Wahlberg, and The Rock are the three main characters.
Oh, I only knew. I thought only Mark Wahlberg and Rock were like the main stars. I didn't know Mackie was in it too. That was before. Maybe that's just because that was before Winter Soldier came out, so I didn't really know who he was. That's probably why. But yeah, because it came out like a year beforehand. But no, it wasn't Pain and Gain. Let me see. Chris Evans filmography, or maybe movies 2015.
Oh, Playing It Cool.
Is that what it was? Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. But he's in it too. Anthony Mackie's in it too. What are the odds that they'd be in the same movie a year after?
It could have been on purpose. It could have been maybe they share the same agent. I don't know.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you know if anything they knew each other from Winter Soldier? Do you want to be a part of this project with me too? Do you know if there was any connection there at all or no?
No, I have no clue. I mean, it could be a total coincidence. It could be completely on purpose. I mean, could have been a Chris Evans thing where he's like, hey, I like Anthony Mackie and we work together. Why don't we put him in this?
It was interesting because I didn't watch the whole movie. I just saw some scenes, but Tobey Maguire's in it too. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Tobey Maguire. The guy from that 70s show that was in...
Topher.
Topher from fucking Spider-Man 3 that played Venom.
The worst comic book movie villain ever.
Terrible. Maybe at some point we have to go back and review those movies too, just to shit on Spider-Man 3.
And you know what? I don't hate Topher Grace. I don't.
No, he's not bad.
I hate him in that movie though.
He's so bad. That movie's just terrible.
That was just bad casting on Sam Raimi's part.
Yeah. I'm not even really sure what the motivation was in getting him in that role for that movie. It just did not work on any level whatsoever.
You know what it was? It was Topher Grace was good at being a dick, and you're not supposed to like Eddie Brock in that movie, but he just didn't work once he had all the makeup on, and he's supposed to be menacing when he's like holding Mary Jane hostage. It's like, I still just see Eric Foreman from that 70s show. I can't get past it.
Exactly. I just can't buy him in that role whatsoever. And
literally, it's the same thing as if they had cast Fred Savage.
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Yeah.
That's the Wonder Years, kid. That's all I'm ever going to see.
And it was so soon after the show ended, too. I think that 70s show ended in 06 or 05 or something. And then that Spider-Man movie came out in 07. So it was so soon after. It wasn't enough time. For example, if Daniel Radcliffe came out with the movie now, I mean, he does. He still comes out with this stuff. I would still see him as the Harry Potter kid, but it's been so long where I don't see him as being Harry Potter, And we've talked about him before, too.
And he's actually,
he's done well, you said.
He's really funny. He's, that show Miracle Workers, I think we might have talked about this on the last Avengers.
We did, one of them,
that we did. Yeah, that show Miracle Workers with him is the first. I haven't seen the second season yet, but the first season's great. And I admire him for basically being well, I made a bunch of money on Harry Potter, so from now on I'm just going to do the stuff I want to do.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I respect that.
Really, that's what Emma Watson's doing too.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. I mean, she probably made a bank load off of Beauty and the Beast though a couple of years ago, and I actually enjoyed that movie for what it was. Better than I thought it would be.
I got 10 minutes into it, and I don't know. She's not a great singer.
Okay,
she can sing on key. That doesn't mean she should have been cast as the lead in a movie that heavily relies on music. But that's my opinion.
That's true. I thought she just played the role of Belle. That's her name, right? Belle. I thought she played that role well. Singing wise, no, it was not the greatest for sure. I definitely agree.
Another thing is I saw the movie maybe 2 years after it came out.
Oh, okay.
And I remember everybody being so impressed with the CGI of the Beast. And when I saw it, I was like, that does not look good. What are people talking about?
Yeah. No, I just like the story. I didn't know the CGI was definitely not a highlight. So I
mean, if I had a kid and they wanted to watch The Beauty and the Beast, I'd throw the cartoon on because it's the same exact story.
Of course. I don't think I would show any kid any remake of any movie that just came out without showing them the original first. That goes for Lion King. I haven't even seen Aladdin yet. I mean, I heard it was decent. I don't know. I'll
give Aladdin a little more credit than the other live action remakes.
Yeah.
It was better than I expected it to be.
Okay.
I still felt like they did a terrible job. Jasmine's an idiot. So the biggest problem I have with that character is she's supposed to be this smart, well-rounded girl who wants to do more with her position.
Mm-hmm.
But then they completely negate her intelligence by having her not know that bread costs money when she tries to give it to a kid. Come on. Just use a little common sense. And they brought that same freaking scene into the new one.
Why?
And Naomi Harris, I think her name is,
who plays Jasmine.
Yeah, like, she tries her best, but that scene is impossible to pull off for any actress, because you can't have a grown woman sitting there and not understand the concept of money.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Like, I don't care how sheltered she was in that castle. She knows what money is.
She can't be that big of an idiot.
No, but Nasim Pedrad was really funny in the new one. Like, she just has a huge boner for Will Smith the whole movie. And she's such a funny actress, so, like, she pretty much saved it for me.
I know that's on Disney Plus now. I'm gonna have to check it out soon. Where's that?
Yeah.
I know you've said it to me before, but where is that show Miracle Workers located?
That was a TBS original, so, like, you probably have it. If you have cable or satellite, it's probably free on there.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. I know I said last time.
Maybe Hulu. I don't know.
Yeah, Hulu usually has that type of stuff. I'll have to check on Hulu. As we wind down the Phase 2 stuff here, again, we kind of go off the rails just because there's really not a ton of talk about when it comes to Phase 2. But one other thing I did want to bring up here. What was the other thing? Maybe it's just this last thing. But yeah, you kind of mentioned it before, but how it kind of laid the groundwork for Phase 3. Obviously very effective in that respect as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did a lot of legwork in Phase 2. Like, Avengers Age of Ultron, even though it is a good movie, like, that, they didn't need that movie in Phase 2. Like, the rest of the movies I felt like moved the story along, but Ultron could have been anywhere in Phase 2 and it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, as far as everything else goes, it did a good job setting up. It had the thankless job of being like a series of sequels.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, Guardians and Ant-Man were new, but again, they were kind of risky propositions where if they didn't work out, they didn't have to keep using those characters because they weren't so tied to anything else.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like after Guardians they show the Avengers show up in the post-credit scene and then it ties in Ultron. Like, if it didn't work, they would have never had to go back to it again. It could have been just a one and done, move on, whatever. They didn't have to because it worked out so well. So, last question for you as we wind down here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have Iron Man 3, Dark World, Winter Soldier, Guardians, Avengers, Ant-Man. As I asked you at the Phase 1 recap, where would you rank these movies from weakest to best? Starting with the weakest, what would you start out with of those 6 movies?
I'd probably put Thor at the bottom.
Okay, that was a gimme, yeah.
Ultron would go just above that, and then Iron Man.
Interesting. Oh, and Iron Man 3 at number 4, okay.
Yeah, and then I'd put Ant-Man, and then I gotta put Guardians above Winter Soldier just a little bit, but those two, I mean, they're interchangeable at 1 and 2 for me.
Yeah, you're not wrong if you put Winter Soldier first. I would probably agree. I would definitely put Guardians 1. I mean, I'm biased because that's one of my favorite movies in the entire MCU, but that would be my number 1 as well. Then Winter Soldier. You said Ant-Man at number 3. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So like Iron Man, Ultron, and Thor. The bottom 3, top 3 are Ant-Man, Cap, and Guardians.
Interesting. That's a tough one. I don't know what I would put. I like Ant-Man being there. It seems odd. It feels wrong to put it above an Avengers movie, but like we talked about when we reviewed it a couple weeks ago, it doesn't feel like it should be top 3. I'm not going to put it at number 3 just because it's Avengers. It's a good movie, but I think if I had the choice between watching that or Ant-Man, I'd probably watch Ant-Man. So you're probably right. Let me think. Guardians, Winter Soldier, Ant-Man. You said Iron Man 3. Yeah, actually, you know what? I agree with that ranking as well. Iron Man, and then Ultron, and then Dark World is at an easy 6 that is not interchangeable by any means. I'd have to put that at the bottom.
The one thing I will give Phase 2 credit for is it does have a lot of different feeling movies in it. Like, Iron Man feels very different from Thor, which feels very different from Winter Soldier, which feels very different from Guardians. Like, I know a lot of people have a complaint of like, oh, if it's a Marvel movie, it's always going to have the same sort of aesthetic to it. And that might be true, but that's important because they're all supposed to take place in the same world. If they don't have the same aesthetic, it won't feel that way.
Yep.
But when you're talking about the directing style and just the overall story arcs, each movie is very different. Like Thor: The Dark World is kind of a Shakespearean story almost. Iron Man 3 is a story about PTSD to some degree.
Yeah, yeah.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier is very much a spy movie. Guardians is a crazy space opera.
Mm-hmm.
Ultron, that's sort of like the big apocalyptic, the world's going to end kind of story. And then Ant-Man is this small little heist comedy. Like, each movie has its own feel to it. And I can't necessarily say the same thing about Phase 1 or Phase 3.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. I didn't really think about that. But yeah, there's a lot of variety in this phase. There's not a lot of movies. I'm trying to think, how many movies were in Phase 1? You had Iron Man 1.
6.
6 as well in that one?
1 and 2 were both 6. 3 is the only one that went much bigger with, what was it, 12 or 10?
12 or something like that. I was going to say. Because there's 24 movies in total, I think? Or 26? Well, I don't know.
Endgame was 22, so Spider-Man was 23. So I think there's 11 movies in Phase 3.
Holy shit. Almost twice the amount. I mean, that was over the course of 3 years, actually. And this is 3 years as well. That's a lot. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Phase 3 was 16, 17, 18, and 19. So, it had a 4-year span.
4-year span, yeah.
3 of those years had 3 movies apiece. So that's probably when people really started to get the superhero fatigue was Phase 3, because they were just churning them out 3 a year.
Like every couple of months, like every 3 or 4 months you'd get a new movie.
Like, it sucks that this pandemic has moved things back, but I feel like when people are finally able to see some of these movies that have been delayed, they're going to be much more profitable because everybody's going to want to go see them. Yeah,
actually, it might be a blessing in disguise, just because specifically, I mean, with movies in general, but Marvel specifically, they were coming out so frequently where it's not a case where because we haven't seen a Marvel movie in a while, it doesn't feel like Marvel's lost momentum. It's just going to make me want to see Black Widow that much more, even more so than I would have wanted to see it back in May. It's going to be, if it comes out in November, we will probably be fine. But if they push Black Widow back again, it's going to be the first year since 2010 that there's going to be no Marvel movies at all. We've already gone.
I mean, it's been just over 12 months since Spider-Man Far From Home. That was July 2nd.
Yeah, right before 4th of July. Yeah, July 2nd, I think. Yeah, you're right.
We've officially gone more than 12 months without a Marvel movie, and some people probably don't miss them. Like, I know some people who just do not care about the Marvel movies at all.
Same.
Like,
same.
Like, hell, our boss Eric said he hasn't seen them all.
Has he seen a single one? Like, my buddy RJ.
Yeah, he's seen some of them, but he said he's behind on them. So it's like, some people just don't care about it, and that's fine. Everybody has their thing. I wasn't into the Harry Potter movies when they were in theaters. I didn't see any of them until the last one was a couple years old.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I've never read the books.
Oh no, I tried, and I watched all the movies, but I couldn't go through the books.
And it's probably because I'm like, I know some people have gotten into them as an adult, but they are books that are designed for children, at least the first few. And I tried reading the first one, it just wasn't for me. And that's fine. But some people don't like the Marvel stuff. Some people are just DC diehards, so they're always gonna prefer that over Marvel as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. There's a few different things. I'm trying to think of another franchise off the top of my head. I love Star Wars, so I can't even really say that. But yeah, I know a ton of people that aren't really into the movies at all. My buddy RJ, who I talk wrestling with all the time, has seen only Iron Man, and I think that's it. He actually texted me the other day saying that he watched Guardians, probably because Batista was in it, and he actually really enjoyed it. So that was cool to hear. But yeah, there's some people that have only seen like Iron Man, or again like an Ant-Man because it's on TV all the time, or Guardians is on TV all the time. So I could see people watching that stuff. But other than that, they may not be into it.
FX alone shows the Marvel movies like crazy, and now that Disney owns those channels, it'll probably be even worse.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, if people, again, if they want to get into the MCU and rewatch all the movies with us, all the movies, for the most part, except for an elite few, are not, or I'm sorry, are on Disney Plus. I have a Disney Plus account. That's where I watch all the movies. I think the only movies that aren't on there are, I think Infinity War is actually on there. I was going to say Infinity War. They added Infinity War recently. They don't have the two Spider-Man movies because that's not Disney. That's technically Sony, or it is Sony, so that's why they're not on there. Those are, like, I saw one of them on Xfinity, though. Those are on TV sometimes.
Yeah, you'll always be able to find one somewhere else. Like Netflix has a couple of them that are still up, but
Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think, is still there. Yeah. I think the only other one that's not on Disney Plus is Hulk. That one I had to go. I bought that on YouTube for like $4 to go watch it a couple months ago.
Yeah, that was a Paramount production.
Yes.
So
yeah.
But so was the first Iron Man. So I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe there are some rights issues with the Incredible Hulk that Marvel still doesn't completely like. That's why they haven't made a solo Hulk movie, because Marvel technically doesn't have the right to do that.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that in our Hulk review a while ago. But...
Oh, it's Universal. That's it. So Universal was the distributor for the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
And Universal is not going to give up anything without a fight.
Yeah, and don't they still have the Hulk ride in Universal Studios or something like that? I know they own the
probably.
They own the rights to that, I think, too. Although they have a fucking Spider-Man ride or something too, I thought, and that's not Disney. I mean, it's not in Disney; it's like Universal. I have no idea.
I mean, Universal Studios could have had a licensing deal with Sony, because Sony doesn't own theme parks.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense, because Sony technically still owns like 900 characters that are related to Spider-Man.
Yeah, they own a lot. But
it's insane. Like when they bought Spider-Man, they bought the entire catalog of like everybody related to Spider-Man in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something like 903 characters, most of which people have never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that has anything with like Miles Morales, if he was developed after that agreement was made. Maybe Marvel owns him outright. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. It kind of gets a little, no pun intended, sticky with the Spider-Man situation in terms of what's owned and what's not.
Yeah, especially before the Fox deal, because
exactly
there was a while there where they were like pretty much phasing the X-Men out of the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like to spite Fox.
Really? That's weird.
Yeah, it was a strange fight that they had for a while, because Marvel, once they became their own big studio and then Disney bought them, they really wanted those characters back, and Fox was like, no. Are you kidding? These movies make us a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. So
they were like, well, then we're not going to give you free advertising for your characters by making comic books about them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So.
It seems like there's a lot of drama that goes on behind the scenes that we just don't know about, unless you really like read up on it when it comes to like the possession of certain characters.
Yeah, I mean, the part of the problem is when Marvel was going bankrupt, they started just selling off their characters to any movie studio that wanted them. So you had Universal ended up with, I think, Hulk and Blade.
Okay.
And then Spider-Man and all his characters ended up at Sony, and Fox got X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And that's why when Marvel came out, like, Captain America was a heavy hitter, but Iron Man was a C-list character in the comics. Like, he was not this major important character like he is in the movies.
Yeah, he's not the central. I mean, he's the central focus now, but it's crazy to think there was a time in the comics where he wasn't the featured face of Marvel, but he is now, but he wasn't back then. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's basically taken the mantle of almost like the Batman character. Like, he's not as dark, but
yeah,
he's sort of the Batman for Marvel, the regular guy who just has a lot of money and intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's basically the Bruce Wayne of the MCU, of Marvel, and now he's the featured face of the entire franchise, and they've built everything kind of around him. But there's a lot of characters, a lot more characters to come too in Phase 3 that we'll get to. Some new movies, some sequels, some of my favorite movies in the MCU to date. We'll get to that in our Phase 3 reviews. So the next one coming up next week is Captain America Civil War, one of my favorites. Not as good. I think Winter Soldier is still better, but Civil War, good one. Bit overrated. I will agree with some people on that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that next week.
Yeah, and for that, we should have Eric with us, Eric Beeston.
Yes, I forgot about Eric. We'll have Eric for that one. That'll be cool. So I talked to a few different people. We have Eric for that one. Then I think for That's 2016. So after Civil War, I think it was Doctor Strange. I think we're flying solo on that one. I think it was
Thor Ragnarok. We got Jeff J coming in.
Yes, I reached out to Jeff too. Yeah, he confirmed what you already told me, that he's coming on for Ragnarok, which is cool. I talked to Anthony Mango. He's coming on for shit. What did I say that he'd come on for? I think Homecoming. I think. That's going to be a while. Those are a couple movies from now, so we got a while. I'd have to go back in my DMs and check, but we got him coming on. We got the whole Bleacher Report staff coming on, so a lot to look forward to.
We just gotta keep Mike and Donnie apart.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have him. Why don't we have him on for Civil War? I mean, that'd be perfect. One person can be Team Iron Man. Someone else can be Team Captain America. We'll probably go for an hour and a half.
Well, we got Beeston coming on for Civil War.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I'm just joking for that one. Yeah.
We gotta keep that would have been good though.
That would have been fitting. And then maybe we can make Eric, not Beeston. We can make Eric Ball watch one of the movies, and we'll get his 2 cents on it. Even though he may not know what the hell's going on, we could still get his 2 cents in one of the movies. I think that'd be entertaining too.
Yeah.
We'll see. I know I'll probably have Nick Torres, who came on for the last couple Avengers movies. He'll probably come back, time permitting, for the Infinity War one, maybe even...
Trying to get Dilbert to come on, too.
Oh, okay, definitely. I actually had Dilbert on for my podcast a long time ago. It's probably been like 5 years. So what?
Yeah, I know he's a busy guy, but he said he'd think about it, so I'll keep hammering him.
Is he a Marvel guy, too?
I know he likes the movies and he's seen them all, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, definitely all more reason if he's available, to get him on for one of these movies. Yeah, just let him know. There's a ton of shit to come. So, again, I think we have openings for at least, we can always have more than one person on for one of these. So, I know for the ones that are just us right now, I think are Doctor Strange. I know Anthony, I gave him the list, and he's like, I don't want to do Captain Marvel, I don't want to do Doctor Strange, and I don't want to do this because he doesn't like those. I forgot maybe Dark World or something, even though we already did it, but that's why he's coming on, I think, for Homecoming, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll reach out to all these people as it gets closer, make sure they're coming on. But yeah, it'd be cool if we can get Dilbert on for one too. So a lot to look forward to here on the MCU Rewatch Review series. And again, like I said, I don't know if it was on this one or on the Ant-Man review we just recorded too, but at the very end, I'm timing this so it'll coincide hopefully with Black Widow coming out in November, so we can do kind of a preview panel for that one, review it after it comes out, but also do a ranking of every MCU movie to date, which may take a while, it may take 10 minutes, depends, I guess, how close we are in our ranking. So a lot to look forward to. People can find you, Chris, on the Twitter machine at BR_Doctor, me at WrestleRant. Chris, thanks as always. This has been awesome. I'll catch you next week, brother.
For sure. Take it easy.
All right, you too, dude. Bye.